Confident Speaking Podcast, where you can learn to speak English with natural rhythm, real confidence, and fluency.
Hey there, amazing learners. Welcome back to the Confident Speaking Podcast. I'm Jessica, your host and guide on this incredible English learning journey. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you're one of our loyal listeners, I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today. You know what? I can feel the energy already building because today's episode is going to be a game changer for so many of you. We're diving deep into something that could literally transform how you approach your English studies. I'm talking about 3 massive study mistakes that are quietly stealing your time, crushing your confidence, and keeping you stuck in frustration. But here's the exciting part. Once you recognize these mistakes and implement the solutions I'm sharing today, you're going to study smarter, progress faster, and actually enjoy the process more. We're talking about getting better results with less time investment. Who doesn't want that, right? So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's unlock the secrets to more effective English learning together. Trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll have a completely new perspective on how to maximize your study sessions. Let's dive in. Mistake number 1, the planning trap. Let me paint you a picture that I see way too often. Jenny sits down on Sunday evening feeling motivated about her English learning goals. She thinks, tomorrow I'm going to study English for an hour. Monday comes around and life happens. Work runs late, dinner takes longer than expected, and suddenly it's 9 p.m. She thinks, well, I'll do it Tuesday instead. Tuesday arrives and she finally carves out that precious hour. She sits at her desk, opens her laptop, and then blank stare. What should I study today? She spends 15 minutes browsing YouTube for English lessons, gets distracted by a cooking video, then finds herself on social media. Another 10 minutes, gone. When she finally finds something to study, she's already mentally exhausted and only has 35 minutes left. Sound familiar? This is the planning trap, and it's destroying more English learning dreams than any grammar rule ever could. The planning trap operates on 2 devastating levels. First level, there's the macro planning failure, not having a clear roadmap for your learning journey. Without this bigger picture, every study session becomes a decision-making nightmare. You're constantly asking yourself, what should I focus on today? Should I work on grammar or vocabulary? Maybe I should practice speaking, or perhaps I need more listening practice. This decision fatigue alone can drain your mental energy before you even start learning. The second level is micro-planning failure, not preparing for individual study sessions. Even if you know you want to study conversation skills this week, sitting down without specific materials or activities planned means you'll waste precious time searching, comparing options, and second-guessing yourself. Here's what effective planning actually looks like in practice. Let's say it's the last Sunday of the month. You sit down with a cup of coffee and map out the next 6 to 8 weeks. You might decide, weeks 1 to 2, focus on describing past experiences and travel stories. Weeks 3 to 4, master expressing opinions and giving reasons. Weeks 5 to 6, practice future plans and predictions. This gives you clear themes to work with. But we don't stop there. At the beginning of each week, you get more specific. For your past experiences weeks, you might plan Monday, learn 10 new past tense irregular verbs and practice with example sentences. Wednesday, watch a 15-minute travel vlog, take notes on expressions used. Friday, record myself telling a 5-minute story about my last vacation. The magic happens when you prepare everything in advance. On Sunday evening, you bookmark the travel vlog you'll watch Wednesday. You create your list of irregular verbs for Monday. You even set up your phone's voice recorder app for Friday speaking practice. When study time arrives, you sit down and immediately know exactly what to do. This preparation phase eliminates what psychologists call activation energy, the mental effort required to start a task. When your materials are ready and your plan is clear, you can channel 100% of your energy into actual learning instead of wasting it on decisions and preparations. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think planning means rigidity. What if I don't feel like studying irregular verbs on Monday? Great question. Effective planning includes flexibility. Maybe you prepare 2 options for each session. Option A, your main plan, and option B, a backup that matches your energy level. Feeling tired? Go with the later option. Feeling energetic? Tackle the challenging material. The planning principle extends beyond content to your environment too. Successful learners create what I call learning triggers, environmental cues that signal study time. Maybe it's a specific playlist you put on, a particular corner of your room where you study, or even a special notebook you only use for English. These triggers help your brain shift into learning mode faster. Mistake number 2, the social media trap. Now, before I dive into this mistake, let me be crystal clear. I'm not anti-social media for language learning. Some of my students have made incredible breakthroughs using Instagram English accounts, TikTok pronunciation videos, and YouTube channels. The problem isn't social media itself, it's when social media becomes your only learning tool. Think about how your brain works when you're scrolling through social media. You're in what researchers call browse mode. Your attention is diffused, you're expecting quick dopamine hits, and your brain is literally trained to jump from one piece of content to the next every few seconds. This is the exact opposite of the focused, sustained attention that deep learning requires. Let me share a story about my student Miguel. He was spending 2 hours every evening on English TikTok and Instagram, watching funny videos with English captions, following English learning accounts, and feeling like he was studying hard. After 3 months, he came to me frustrated. "Jessica, I'm spending so much time with English content, but I can't have a real conversation. What's wrong with me?" Nothing was wrong with Miguel. The problem was that he was consuming English in tiny, disconnected fragments. He was learning individual words and phrases, but not how to connect ideas, maintain conversations, or think in English for extended periods of time. His brain was trained for English snacking, not English meals. Here's what happens neurologically when you rely only on social media for learning. Your brain develops what scientists call continuous partial attention. You're always semi-focused on multiple streams of information. This makes it incredibly difficult to engage in the sustained, focused practice necessary for language acquisition. You're essentially training your brain to have English ADHD. But there's another, more subtle problem with social media-only learning: the illusion of progress. Because social media content is designed to make you feel good, you often encounter the same level of English repeatedly. The algorithm shows you content you can understand and engage with, which feels great, but doesn't challenge you to grow. You end up in what I call the comfort zone bubble. You feel like you're learning a lot, but you're actually just reinforcing what you already know. Contrast this with structured learning approaches. When you follow a well-designed course or textbook, you're systematically introduced to new concepts that build upon each other. You start with simple present tense, then move to past tense, then to perfect tenses, then to complex conditional structures. Each step prepares you for the next level of complexity. This systematic approach does something crucial for your brain. It creates what cognitive scientists call scaffolding. Each new concept is supported by the foundation of what you learned before. Social media learning, by contrast, is like trying to build a house by randomly collecting beautiful bricks without any architectural plan. Let me give you a practical example of how to use social media effectively as part of a balanced learning diet. Let's say you're working through a course unit about expressing preferences and making comparisons. After you've studied the grammar rules and practiced with exercises, you might search for TikTok videos where people compare different cities, foods, or movies. Now you're using social media to see real-world applications of what you've systematically learned. Or maybe you've just finished a textbook chapter on travel vocabulary. You could follow travel Instagram accounts and challenge yourself to identify the words you learned in their posts. The key difference is that social media becomes a supplement to, not a replacement for structured learning. The community aspect is worth exploring too. When you take a proper course, you're surrounded by people who share your commitment level and learning goals. You can practice together, motivate each other through difficult periods, and celebrate progress together. Social media communities, while they can be supportive, often lack this focused commitment. You might get encouragement, but you're less likely to find serious practice partners or accountability. Here's my recommendation for balancing social media in your learning diet. Follow the 70-30 rule. Spend 70% of your study time with structured materials, courses, textbooks, graded readers, organized listening materials. Use the remaining 30% for social media content, but make it purposeful. Don't just scroll, actively hunt for content that reinforces what you're studying in your structured materials.
Mistake number 3, the level mismatch disaster. This mistake breaks my heart because I see so many dedicated learners sabotaging their own progress with the best intentions. They think, if I challenge myself with advanced materials, I'll improve faster. It sounds logical, but it's actually one of the most counterproductive approaches to language learning. Let me tell you about Anna, a B1 level student who was determined to improve her English by watching BBC documentaries and reading The Economist. She would sit with these materials, armed with a dictionary and a notebook, ready to conquer advanced English. 3 sentences in, she'd encounter 5 unknown words. After looking them up, she'd forgotten the beginning of the sentence. By the end of one paragraph, she had a list of 20 new words and no idea what the paragraph was actually about. Anna was experiencing what psychologists call cognitive overload. Her brain was so busy processing individual words that it couldn't handle the bigger picture, comprehension, context, and meaning. It's like trying to appreciate a beautiful painting while focusing so intently on individual brushstrokes that you never see the complete image. But the damage goes beyond just slow progress. When you consistently study materials above your level, you're training your brain to associate English with struggle, confusion, and frustration. You're literally conditioning yourself to feel anxious when you encounter English content. This creates what Stephen Krashen calls a high affective filter, an emotional barrier that blocks learning. Think about how you feel when you understand most of what you're reading or hearing. You feel confident, curious, engaged. Your brain is relaxed and open to absorbing new information. Now, contrast that with the feeling of being lost in text that's too difficult. You feel stressed, overwhelmed, maybe even a little stupid. Which emotional state do you think is more conducive to learning? Here's what happens when you study at the appropriate level. Let's say you're reading a B1 level story, and you encounter 1 unknown word per paragraph. Your brain can handle this easily. You might guess the meaning from context, or quickly look it up without losing the flow of the story. You're learning new vocabulary while staying engaged with the content. You finish the story feeling accomplished and motivated to read more. This is what language acquisition researchers call comprehensible input, content that's mostly understandable with small challenges that promote growth. It's like physical exercise. If you're new to weightlifting, you don't start with the heaviest weights in the gym. You start with weights that challenge you but allow you to maintain proper form and complete your sets. As you get stronger, you gradually increase the weight. The same principle applies to language learning. If you're at B1 level, B1 materials will challenge you appropriately while allowing you to build confidence and fluency. B2 materials might be okay occasionally for a stretch challenge, but C1 materials will likely overwhelm your processing capacity. But how do you know what level is right for you? Here's a practical test I give my students. When you're reading or listening to material at your level, you should understand about 80 to 90% of what you encounter. You should be able to follow the main ideas easily and guess most unknown words from context. If you're understanding less than 70%, the material is too difficult.
If you're understanding 100%, it might be too easy, though there's nothing wrong with easier materials for building confidence and fluency. Let me address a common concern. But Jessica, if I only study B1 materials, how will I ever reach B2 level? Great question. You reach B2 by thoroughly mastering B1. Think of language levels like floors in a building. You can't get to the third floor without a solid second floor beneath you. When you truly master B1, when B1 grammar becomes automatic, when B1 vocabulary flows naturally in your speech, when you can understand B1 text effortlessly, then your brain is ready to start processing B2 level complexity. This is why I'm such an advocate for graded readers. These are novels specifically written for different language levels, with controlled vocabulary and grammar structures. A B1 graded reader will tell an engaging story using primarily B1 level language with maybe 5 to 10% B2 level elements to provide gentle challenge. You get all the benefits of reading a complete novel, sustained attention, natural vocabulary in context, cultural insights, while staying at an appropriate difficulty level. The psychological benefits of level-appropriate materials extend beyond just comprehension. When you consistently succeed with your study materials, you build what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief that you can achieve your goals. This confidence becomes a powerful motivator that propels you through difficult periods in your learning journey. Conversely, when you consistently struggle with materials that are too difficult, you develop learned helplessness, the belief that no matter how hard you try, you won't succeed. This is devastating for language learners and often leads to giving up entirely. Here's a practical framework for choosing appropriate materials. For reading, you should be able to understand the main idea of a text without looking up more than 2 or 3 words per page. For listening, you should catch the general meaning, even if you miss some details. For speaking practice, you should be able to express your main ideas, even if your grammar isn't perfect. For writing, you should be able to communicate your thoughts clearly, even if you need to look up a few words. And bonus tip for you, embracing the learning cycles. This bonus tip might be the most important thing I share with you today, because it addresses something that derails more language learners than any grammar rule or vocabulary list ever could: the unrealistic expectation of constant progress and motivation. Learning a language is not a straight upward line. It's a series of waves, cycles, and spirals. Just like the natural world operates in seasons, your learning energy and motivation will ebb and flow in predictable patterns. Understanding and accepting these cycles can be the difference between long-term success and giving up in frustration. Let me paint the picture of a typical learning cycle. You start with high motivation. Maybe you've set a New Year's resolution. Maybe you're planning a trip. Maybe you just found an inspiring YouTube channel. This is your spring phase. Everything feels possible. You study every day. You feel like you're making rapid progress, and you can't imagine ever losing interest in English. Then comes the summer phase. Your learning is in full bloom. You're consistent with your studies, you're seeing clear progress, and learning feels natural and enjoyable. You might maintain this for weeks or even months. Life is good. But then, subtly at first, you enter your autumn phase. Your initial enthusiasm starts to wane. You might skip a study session here and there. Progress feels slower. You start questioning whether you're improving at all. The materials that excited you before now feel routine or even boring. Finally, winter arrives. Your motivation hits rock bottom. You might stop studying entirely for days or weeks. You feel guilty about not studying, which makes you feel worse about English in general. Many learners interpret this as failure and give up entirely. But here's the crucial insight. This winter phase is not failure. It's a natural and necessary part of the learning process. Just as winter serves important functions in nature, allowing soil to rest, trees to conserve energy, seeds to germinate, your learning winter serves important psychological functions. Your brain is consolidating what you've learned, processing experiences, and preparing for the next growth phase. Fighting against this natural rhythm is like trying to force flowers to bloom in winter. The key is learning to recognize and work with these cycles instead of against them. When you feel your motivation declining, don't panic. Don't force yourself to maintain the same intensity of study. Instead, adjust your approach. Maybe switch to easier, more enjoyable materials. Maybe reduce your study time but maintain consistency. Maybe focus on passive consumption, like watching English movies with subtitles. I tell my students to prepare for these cycles in advance. During your motivated spring and summer phases, create what I call winter study plans, collections of easy, enjoyable English activities you can turn to when motivation is low. Maybe it's a playlist of English songs you love, a stack of easy graded readers, or a list of funny English YouTube channels. These aren't meant to push your boundaries. They're meant to keep you connected to English during low motivation periods. The beautiful thing about understanding these cycles is that it removes guilt and self-judgment from temporary dips in motivation. Instead of thinking, I'm lazy, or I'm not cut out for this, you can think, I'm in a natural winter phase. This is normal and temporary. Spring will come again. And spring always does come again. After a period of rest and consolidation, you'll wake up one day feeling curious about English again. Maybe you'll hear a song with interesting lyrics, or see a movie trailer that makes you want to understand every word. That spark of motivation will return, often stronger than before because it's been building unconsciously during your winter phase. Here's how to make the most of these cycles. During high motivation periods, focus on challenging materials and intensive study. Build strong habits and systems. During low motivation periods, focus on maintaining connection with English through enjoyable, low-pressure activities. The goal isn't to make progress. It's to stay in the game until your motivation returns. This cycle awareness also helps you set realistic long-term goals. Instead of expecting linear progress, expect wave-like progress. You might have 3 months of intensive improvement, followed by a month of plateau, followed by another surge of progress. Over the course of a year, you'll be amazed at how far you've come, even though the day-to-day journey included many ups and downs. Wow, what a journey we've been on together today. We've uncovered the 3 hidden time wasters that might have been sabotaging your English learning journey. And more importantly, we've armed you with practical, proven solutions to transform your study sessions. Let's do a quick recap of your new superpowers. First, you now know how to create learning plans that eliminate decision fatigue and maximize your precious study time. Second, you understand how to balance social media learning with structured approaches for deeper, more meaningful progress. And third, you've discovered the sweet spot of studying at just the right level to build confidence while making steady progress. But here's what I want you to remember most from today's episode. Learning English is not just about the techniques and strategies. It's about understanding yourself as a learner. Those natural cycles of motivation we talked about, they're not bugs in your learning system, they're features. Embrace them, work with them, and you'll find yourself becoming not just a better English learner, but a more compassionate and patient person on this incredible journey. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be absolutely thrilled if you could hit that like button. It tells me you found value in what we covered and helps other learners discover these insights too. And if you know someone who's struggling with their English studies, please share this episode with them. Sometimes the right tip at the right moment can completely change someone's learning trajectory. Don't forget to subscribe to the Confident Speaking podcast if you haven't already. We're building an amazing community of learners here, and I don't want you to miss any of our upcoming episodes. Speaking of which, next week we're diving into something I'm really excited about: the psychology of speaking confidence, why some learners freeze up even when they know the words, and the simple mental shifts that can unlock your speaking potential. Before you go, I want to leave you with this thought. You're closer to your English goals than you think. Every small action you take, every mistake you learn from, every moment you choose progress over perfection, it's all adding up to something remarkable. Your English speaking dreams aren't just possible, they're inevitable if you keep showing up for yourself. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Until next time, keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and remember, your voice matters and the world needs to hear it. This is Jessica from the Confident Speaking Podcast, wishing you confidence, progress, and joy on your English learning adventure. Take care, my friend, and I'll see you in the next episode.